Welcome to Mind Your Wedding Business Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago. Each week on this podcast, you'll hear thought-provoking and empowering interviews with wedding professionals who have found success in the industry. If you're a business-minded wedding pro who loves love, but also cares about their bottom line, buckle up and get ready to learn from a new industry expert each week. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business. We have the amazing Julian Ribinik. Did I say it right? Was I close?
You butchered it, but it would be Ribinik.
Okay, I apologize, Julian.
Everyone is butchering that.
That's okay. I can understand that. I have three first names. So the first day of school.
That's insane.
Yeah. So Kevin Michael Dennis is my name, but the first day of school, I would be called Dennis Michael, or it was all kinds of craziness. So I always dreaded the first day of school. It was always my worst part. But anyway, so Julian, welcome to the show. Julian's going to be here to be talking about how to stop being tired and become a happy and energized wedding pro, which is, I think, a topic that we all need. I am in the middle of my roughest part of my wedding season right now. So this is, I think, a really good topic for me personally as well. So, but Julian, before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how did we get here today?
Of course. So first of all, thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
It's an honor. Love your podcast. Everyone should listen. How did I get here? So I come from very long kind of travel from Soviet Union to Israel to United States. And my father taught me photography back in the day. So eventually I ended up as being a wedding photographer, and we're doing it to close to 20 years.
Oh, wow.
That said, food is always a part of that. I also used to be in corporate in apparel. So I was doing weddings on the side, even though it paid for everything, and all the corporate kind of salary went into savings. But I did keep it. And I used to be, like, my last job was VP of customer success for a very large software company.
Oh, wow.
And that came with a lot of
stress,
kind of a lot of spread, but also it taught me a lot about how to work with high-end customers.
Oh, okay.
Because I was in charge of revenues of 1 million and above.
Oh, wow.
And I basically hosted people, took them to restaurants, took them to different places, flying all over the country, making sure that executives are happy with the product and with the company. And of course, personal relationships are a huge part of that. And weddings and that together was very taxing, right? Because there's no sleep. You finish a wedding at 2 a.m., you go home, you get on the flight at 7 a.m., and you fly somewhere else to work for meetings. There's always food, there's always drinks, and I ended up being very unhealthy. I ended up being 90 pounds over what I was at the lowest. So I got to about 230 pounds or something like this, even. Yeah, probably that. And my health sucked. But I think most people can relate that if you're constantly tired, or you're constantly not feeling well, you develop resistance. So, like, if your back hurts all the time, it becomes a normality. So you don't really even complain about it. Like, you wake up, your back hurts. It is what it is. You wake up tired. If it's first time ever, it's a devastating thing. If you wake up tired all the time, it's normality. So I used to wake up at 8 a.m. and I was always dead. By the end of the day, completely falling asleep at weddings. And yeah, and especially on the drive home.
That's not good to be falling asleep on the drive home.
Absolutely. And I think many people can relate, because I do talk to many people and I coach many people in the wedding industry. And that is something normal. Like, everyone, like, I'm so tired. I had a wedding yesterday and now another one, and do events. Some people have day jobs. So eventually, me being overweight and not admitting that to myself, and suffering from different mild things that probably everyone does, I ended up moving to New Jersey and going to a new doctor who told me that I will probably die in 5 years.
Oh, geez.
because I am pre-diabetic. I have very, very extremely high cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
My liver is fatty. I'm not sleeping well, right? Like they send me to sleep studies. All the bucket of metabolic things that can happen to a person, basically, right? I had that.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor was overweight, stinking from cigarettes,
Oh, geez.
and looking very tired.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know what exactly you need to do because we're all in the same boat, but you need to stop eating what you're eating and you need to start exercising.
But don't do what he's doing.
and yes, and he said, like, don't be like me because I don't do any of those and this is the result.
Yeah.
But also my numbers are better than yours.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of like ChatGPT likes to say a kicker.
Yeah.
Because the guy is way older, looks way worse, and his numbers are better than mine.
Hmm.
That was very scary. So I essentially next day sign up to the gym and decided if my sugar is high, I'll just cut all the sugar out of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happened. And probably because it was scary, I just kept doing that.
Mm.
I lost about 90 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Year and a half.
I was going to ask how long. Yeah, that's pretty good in a year and a half.
And I went all the way to 140 pounds, which wasn't a good idea, by the way.
No, yeah.
But I was very determined and it stopped being hard.
Uh-huh.
So on the way, I learned how to lose weight very efficiently. And that was useful. But bottom line, I fixed all my health issues. And two things happen. Thing number one, I stopped being tired ever unless I maybe don't sleep for 2-3 nights in a row. And that happens, like work and whatever, 2-3 hours with flights. But otherwise, you can wake me up after 4 hours at 3 a.m. I will be very sharp and I will stay like this till I go to bed. And I stopped falling asleep. I stopped complaining about any tiredness. And I got rid of all my bad things with health. So like cholesterol, sugar, you name it. It all went away and no pains in the body whatsoever. So at some point, I went back to the doctor and I said, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
And, I started explaining, digging into I track food. I, watch my blood work and do many things. And he said, I have 2 people who I need, help with because those ladies come to me for 30 years and complain about weight that they cannot lose. So I helped both of them and they lost weight. And the doctor became my first paying client ever.
Oh, no way.
So we got him off cigarettes. He lost weight and things like that. But that prompted me to essentially go and do what I do in addition to weddings, because he said, you love it, your eyes, light up when you talk about clients and people who you help. And just why don't you quit your corporate job? So I started building my practice, obviously while doing weddings. And then I quit my corporate job, 14 years. Was the last one. And I added this as a day practice. And I started helping more of executives and lawyers and many, many people from wedding industry because this is where I am.
Yeah.
Basically on the weekly basis, on the community. And people saw what happened to me because you go to same venue every other, week. Yeah. And you work with same people more or less because you know how it works. And people started asking questions. So eventually I ended up building kind of a lot of relationships around this in the community as well. So this is how I ended up here. And I think it pairs well.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story how we got to where you are today. But so did you have to drastically change your diet? Did you, when you were going through this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I went and I'm probably not a very common case, or maybe I am coming from it probably will be for Russian and Italians. I never ate meat. And I wasn't into sweets. But I was very heavily into alcohol and into anything that is bread or pasta. So it would go to the point where we need to go out restaurant, birthday or whatever, and I'm asking, do they have pasta?
Mm.
No pasta, I'm not going.
Oh,
Literally,
geez.
because I didn't eat anything else.
Wow.
So I had to have pasta.
Yeah.
And cheese was my dessert. No sweets.
Yeah.
And I went from there to eating vegetables, which I never ate. Like I wouldn't eat salads. So that's weird to eat greens, right? And removed all bread, all pasta, anything that has carb, but vegetables. And I switched to consuming a lot of protein based on what I learned, based on what I experienced and things like that. So it brought me into chicken and to a lot of fish. Didn't quite manage to eat meat unless it's some kind of very high-end steakhouse where it just melts in your mouth.
Yeah.
But yes, it was a very drastic thing. And 2 years in, I quit drinking any alcohol as well. And I'm just trying to start now, and it's not going well.
Oh, geez.
Because, there's social situations and, sometimes you want to just walk around having a glass of sparkling
wine. Yeah.
But I feel like after a couple, something switches in the brain and like, I'm not as sharp. And it's not being buzzy. It's like tiredness.
Oh, yeah. Maybe because you've kind of detoxed it out of your body, maybe. And that's why, your body's like rejecting it in a way. That's an amazing story.
Completely.
So how, you said you had a lot of clients now, just out of curiosity before we jump into all the real questions, is like, how long, a realistic process from someone starting with you till they see results, to where they're starting to really see it?
I think it really depends what the goal is.
Okay.
Because when I started doing this, it was like, oh, I know how to lose weight. I will help people to lose weight. Now, with all the iterations of what I did, a lot of people come to me because they're tired or because they have actual problems with their health, meaning how to lower your cholesterol, how to get rid of sugar, how to lower inflammation, and different things take different amount of time. So if someone comes for weight loss, it starts within, week 2, 3, people see results.
Oh, wow.
With being tired, after a week, sometimes couple of days, people start feeling difference. And the big difference, depending on where it's coming from, because there are different things that affect your energy levels. If it's blood markers, you cannot do blood work every month. You can if you want insurance not to cover that.
Yeah, exactly.
But that said, there are different blood markers, and I don't know how much it's going to be boring to everyone. But for example, if you have a gout, it takes a really long time to get rid of it. If you have high sugar, it takes a long time. If you have high triglycerides or cholesterol, we're lowering it very fast. So it really depends on what we'll
on the situation. Wow. And then, so like if I'm looking to do weight loss, is it, like I'm looking to lose like 30 pounds. Is that like a year, 2 year, like the journey or?
So 30 pounds, I like to be very conservative.
Okay.
Because I know where speed leads and it's never to a good place. And I would say a pound a week is a very good estimation.
Okay.
And to someone, it might be, oh my God, like I'm going to spend 2 years. And to someone, it will be, just like a couple of months and I'm where I want to be. But people typically are impatient, like with everything, including money, business, getting connections, whatever. And they want something immediate. And as with everything, it's like people win lottery and become broke within, a year because they just don't know how to deal with money.
Correct.
And the same things goes here. So fast weight loss is easy. And we can see a lot of people on Ozempic, but it causes a lot of issues. Really hard to come back from. And sometimes it's impossible to reverse. And so I don't want for people to lose weight fast.
Okay.
In the beginning, it is fast because there's a lot of inflammation that just holds water in your body. But then you don't want to undereat ever because you will ruin your health. So a pound a week is a very good marker for that.
That's interesting. I always thought it would be more, but yeah, it makes sense. And you just gotta, it's the journey, not the, not the sprint there. It's going to take some time. So, and I think too, being in our industry, it's hard, cause like every weekend like right now, short rib is a huge, thing that you're seeing everywhere we go. And that's just a bunch of fatty meat, and it's not very healthy for you. And it's to the point where I personally can stand to lose some pounds, but I just stopped eating it because it's just, I know it's not good for me. And when I'm seeing it 2-3 times a weekend, it's like, no thanks. Or I'll eat all the stuff around it, or, but then I get caught at hitting, I'm in California, so we have In-N-Out Burger. So I get caught hitting In-N-Out Burger on the way home, which is not good for me either. So I got to get better at all this eating stuff. I think a lot of us in the wedding industry could do that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we all know how stressful being in the wedding industry can be. How can we reduce stress and live a little bit of a happier life?
So it's interesting. And like, how would you, and I will ask you a question. So how would you define what stress is?
To me, it's when my to-do list is not getting, it's getting longer instead of shorter. My inbox is out of control. I have prep for weddings this weekend. That is just, like instead of getting it done earlier in the week, it's now later in the week. Because things are just, what I'm saying? That so to
absolutely.
me, that's all my, like what I deal with, and it just, and then little things get missed, not at wedding wise, but like little things in the office. It's like, oh yeah, there's that bill that I should have paid, but it's under a stack of paper, and I totally been busy and totally forgot, kind of thing. So, it's just, to me, that's stress. And I'm trying to get better about scheduling time with myself and getting things taken care of. So that's something that I am trying. That's my journey right now. Like, hey, I'm going to go to my calendar and block off 2 hours, and I'm going to close my door so my staff can't come in, and I'm going to try to get organized and get things done, and I even to the point where I'll leave the office and go to a Starbucks, or go, because for me, I love being on an airplane, because on the airplane, no one can bother me, and I can get so much work done and get, and kind of de-stress because I don't have people coming at me. So that's how I do everything.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's the Kevin Dennis struggle right now.
So now everyone knows about your struggles, and it does come a lot in different productivity podcasts and things like that. So how to hack this and how to hack that. I think you had a couple of those too.
Mm-hmm.
So we think, including you, right, which is obvious, that stress is a thing that causes you stress. So for you, it might be, lack of time, too many tasks, task list, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no things that are stress. And this is probably the main thing to understand about stress in order to be able to deal with it.
Mm.
Stress is not what happens to us, but rather how we respond to situations.
And then that causes the heart rate to go up, and
it causes not just heart rate to go up. So if we're looking at this at the chemical level, if you are stressed about something, your cortisol shuts up, which is a hormone of stress, and it shuts up in order to help you to deal with the situation. Now, in the nature, if we would be living, in the tribe outside, there's no such thing as a task list. Or, I don't know, a client who is upsetting you, or a wedding planner, I'm doing it on purpose, by the way, pun intended, who is on your tail. Mm-hmm. It's either someone tries to eat you or kill you, or you have no food and you need to go and hunt now because there's no food available for the, whatever community.
Yeah.
So the nature has developed a preservation and survival mechanism where if I need to do something that is out of usual, I'm going to elevate your cortisol in order to give you energy. Because the cortisol is there to keep you alert and to elevate your sugar. And this is the connection between people who are stressed constantly and chronically, they can develop diabetes without eating any sugar.
Oh, wow.
So what happens is your sugar shuts up, you become alert, and you are ready. And if it would be in nature, go hunt, go, fight, whatever, even if you're not eating anything. And that's something that is a blessing, because that's ability to do something that you're typically unable to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when that happens is obviously because your sugar is up, your heart rate will be elevated. And if it's happening all the time, then it's chronically elevated cortisol, higher sugar, heart rate, and also extra brain activity, which, you wake up at night and you start thinking about the work, the finances, someone who said something, what people will think about me, whatever. And that's horrible, right? But this is stress on a chemical level. But that's all how we respond to it.
Mm.
You know how there are people who just don't care about anyone or anything. And, they cross in the road and someone, car hits someone next and they just will keep on walking because they're sociopaths and they just don't care. But they don't get stressed.
Yeah.
And that's the situation that someone else will see and they will not sleep for a week or two or a month.
Mm-hmm.
Same situation happening to two different people. Respond differently.
Gotcha.
Someone loses money and they say, screw that. I will, do whatever. I will downsize. I will try again. I will whatever. And they will keep on sleeping. And someone who has little decrease in their bank account, they will not sleep and see what am I doing? How am I surviving? Mm-hmm. Same situation. Some people will respond to relatives' death in a completely different way. Okay, they were sick. It is what it is. Or it came from God, and someone, again, will be very upset and things like that. Same thing goes for any other situation, right? Your client could have sent an email and you read it and you get upset and you get stressed. Mm-hmm. And someone reads the same email with the same position as you and say okay, it just worked.
Yeah. I can relate to that because sometimes that'll happen in our office. It's like, have you seen this? Because we all share an email box for general client, information kind of thing. We all have our own, but we have one that we all share. And have you seen this email? And one person's like, it's not bad. Everyone reacts different. So I can understand that analogy.
Exactly. And so the way we react is what defines what happens to us. And I think largest thing in fighting stress is changing the approach. It's the biggest thing. Let's say something happens. I am stressed now. What has actually happened? Does it really affect me in any real way? Or am I just, getting all hyped? What's the worst thing that can happen out of it? And did it happen before and I'm totally fine? Mm-hmm. And nothing happened, right? And looking at this from this kind of, from a side standpoint, and realizing that maybe things are not that bad and you've been through this before or that's life or whatever, but changing the approach, right? I can give, an example. You look at your bank account and you have a lot of payments that coming out and you're like, oh my God, I have no money in the bank account, but you have huge savings account. So you can technically, instead of stressing about where they take the money, take some out because you have the money. They're just not there. Mm-hmm. And if you just think about it, I do have the money, everything's good. Boom. If I'm stressed and I'm kind of digging into that story of something is happening to me, I'm not able to focus on other things and help myself. And that's the very basic thing to do. So I do encourage everyone who is in stressful situation to kind of step aside, look, what is actually happening to me? Is it really a problem? And then there are different tools that we can use to regulate that. And there's no particular order, but I would kind of stress that strength training, which most people don't do, is one of the largest distressors that we can have.
So working out, you mean?
And especially lifting weights.
Okay.
And that's because the nature has designed us the way that we have to move and carry heavy weights. to survive by definition.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who is not walking a lot and doesn't carry heavy weights will levels of cortisol that are elevated above normal by definition.
Mm.
So it's not you need to work out in order to lower stress. You need to work, like if you don't work out, by definition, you will be more stressed because you're not designed to not to lift, not to move weights. And we can see that typically in the communities that people who are like movers or like, or people who work out, right? But people who have professions that require labor, they're usually happier in general, unrelated to the income because of that chemical difference.
Wow.
And you can also see that those people, when they pause working, go on vacation, they become kind of down. And that's what happens with someone who takes a break from working out as well.
Oh.
The mood is tanking because your cortisol goes up. So that's the strongest thing. Second, everyone needs to sleep. When you don't sleep, and I'm not talking about sleeping enough, but talking about sleeping in a quality way, meaning you have enough of deep sleep, you have enough of REM sleep, and you're not awake at night, but you sleep in between like 10, 11 a.m. till about 4 or 5 a.m., so p.m., and a.m., in that range, you will be way better off. So it's not the length, it's when and how deep, which there's many factors, and there was like sleep training protocol that I apply. If you sleep, you clear cortisol from your system. It allows you to wake up energized and more relevant. Another thing that is huge is consuming sugar. And we're going back to that cortisol elevates sugar, and that increases your heart rate and increases your stress. If you eat and overeat sugar, your blood pressure goes up and your activity in the brain goes up, and you become more stressed. So you will see people who are more stressed because of their high carb consumption. And those people also start resorting to more carb when they're stressed, because in the moment it feels really good. It has a calming effect, and they eat more and they become more stressed.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yes. And coffee.
Oh, coffee.
It's a huge, huge thing that we all are guilty of, probably almost everyone. And we use it to not be tired. And by the way, it doesn't prevent anyone from being tired. It just delays it and amplifies being tired after a period of time. But coffee also shuts your cortisol up. So people who have a lot of caffeine, they will be way more stressed in general, and they will also sleep less. So all of that compounds, eating, working out, not drinking coffee. And I just had last month a talk at WIPA in New York, and I spoke about coffee. And now I'm getting emails, like at least a couple a week, from different people who say, oh, like I tried what you said, I cut out the coffee and I can sleep and I'm less stressed. So I'm very happy to get those responses. It works very well. And last thing I kind of mentioned in passing, walking is another activity that is essential to us. We're designed to do. So people who don't walk much and know, like walking at a wedding around the dance floor is not helping.
Yes.
And I'm getting like, oh, I did 14,000 steps yesterday at the wedding. No, that's not that, although it's good. But we are designed to walk around sunset and around sunrise, both. And that sets our hormones in line, kicks out our internal clocks, telling the body when it's morning, when it's day, when it's night, based on the sun spectrum. And hormones work accordingly. So you're not jet lag without flying. And if you sit all day at home and looking through the window, you are always jet lagged, by the way. And that's stressful. And another thing, there is kind of therapy for PTSD and stress. It's called EMDR, if anyone is familiar. And that is very, very strong therapy that calms people a lot and can cure PTSD.
Oh, wow.
And that's based on walking.
Wow. How long should someone walk? Just out of curiosity.
Even if you walk 15 minutes in the morning,
okay,
that is going to change your life completely. If you're stressed, you will feel it. And when you stop walking, you will start becoming stressed. So you will come back to your own self. If you do it twice a day, ideally, again, sunset and sunrise close to that, so you have morning spectrum and evening spectrum of sun, you will become way, way better there. And you don't need to walk a lot. It's just enough to capture the sun rays, not through the window. Plus the EMDR therapy that I mentioned, it's based on your eyes constantly moving from side to side while kind of not being stable. So, and seeing different scenes. So like the therapy itself, they making you do this and they showing you different things all the time. So the scenery is changing. It's not static. And that causes huge reduction of cortisol and upstream of good hormones. So walking and when looking at the phone, like many people do, doesn't work because you're locked in on the same thing and you're not kind of seeing different things. So
gotcha.
When you start walking, do not use the phone. So those 3 or 4 things I have mentioned, they will change everything completely stress-wise. And then people can deal with stress better and it's easier to approach any situation.
Wow. And the caffeine, I am not a coffee person, but I'm an iced tea person. If anyone knows me, I'll be the first to grab 2 big old iced teas and I can't get enough of it. So you made me think it's probably time to start dousing or going down on my iced tea intake and drinking a little bit more just water. And it'll probably, I always get a headache. So that's what I always am, but I'm sure you just got to fight through it. And then eventually you won't get that caffeine headache anymore.
If you reduce coffee, it basically it's called, the caffeine is vasodilator. It plays with your blood vessels. So when you start drinking coffee, they change their shape. When you stop, they change their shape again, and that's the pain. It goes away within a couple of days if you really don't touch.
Wow.
So it's way easier to cut it completely, or go from caffeine to decaf, than having, I had 5 espressos a day, now I'm having 4 espressos a day, now I'm having 3. So if you're making it a long thing that you're trying to reduce step by step, you will have headache all that way.
Oh, wow.
If you cut it just like from this to this, in 2 days, you will have no headache.
Wow. All right. So you gave me you're giving me a lot of things I need to do here, Julian. So, all right. So we're going to dive in because a lot of mental health and physical health are connected. So, how do you feel our mental and physical health are connected?
They are absolutely connected. The way that there's no such thing as mental health, the way we think, right? We typically say that we have a soul and we have a physical thing, and completely unrelated to religion, because even total agnostic people talk about soul. But there's no soul in that sense, and hopefully no one tries to send me hate mail or kill me. But everything that we feel, like all our thoughts, they are chemicals regulated. So they all translate into reactions that hormones do, or actions and reactions, right? Hormones are messengers and tell the body how to react to certain things. And it's all chemical reactions that are translated to electrical current, back to chemical reactions. So essentially, whatever you think and however you respond, it's all rooted in those same hormones. And there are more hormones that are involved, obviously. So the way we behave, the way we eat, the way we sleep affects all of that. It affects mental health. And you would be surprised at how many people in the community have different mental states and have medications. And I work with people who have, bipolar disorder or like schizophrenia or something like this, which is like no negative connotation whatsoever, because things happen.
Yeah, correct.
And it can be genetic or because how they ate or how they slept or whatever happened to them in life. And when they change the way they eat and the way they sleep and the way they just think about things, and it's a process, of course, many people get off medications. And as long as they don't come back to, for example, like eating cookies, it doesn't come back. Yes, it's work. And I can't say it's a cure because you can only manage it. The way we think and whatever happens to us is highly controlled by the chemicals in our system. So I'm not able to separate them at all, because what you do is what makes you who you are in the end, including training. If you start training, you become a happier person because it changes how your hormones work. So now you are a happier person because you have elevated levels of dopamine and you didn't have before. And your cortisol is down. So again, you will be less worried and happier and more relaxed.
Now, is this something like work? We talked a couple times about working out. If I have not worked out in a while and I want to start back up, is it 3 times a week, or what is a good number to go to get it ramped up?
So and if we're talking stress-wise, anything you do will improve your situation. Anything, right? If it's once a week, you will become a happier person.
Gotcha.
It doesn't last.
Right?
Because you need to do something every day.
Gotcha.
Or at least 3 times a week or 4 times a week for the effect to last. Just like with any hormone, you have elevation, then you have the downstream. The faster it rises, the faster it falls. So for example, if, God forbid, someone injects heroin, the dopamine shot's very high, very fast, and it crashes immediately.
Very hard.
And this is why they need to be on it, because now they go from pink to black very fast. If you work out, it's not a high dopamine elevation, and it's gradual. So it will take sometimes 2 days after the workout to go down.
Okay.
But it needs to be hard enough for the dopamine to go somewhere where you actually feel it.
Gotcha.
And that's what we call, like, people who run, they know what runner's high is. I don't know if you have experienced that.
I'm not a runner.
But it has nothing to do with running.
Yeah.
It just, people who run, they run for a long time. And at some point, hormones kick in and you start crying. You can be like so happy, and then you can run and run and run. Same thing happens with any kind of training if you do it hard enough. Same with lifting. With lifting, you sometimes do 2 repetitions and you are crying.
Oh, wow.
And you become so happy and you life is changing. You see pink everywhere, which is funny. So the more you do, the better. It's just like walking once a week better than 0. Lifting once a week is better than 0. But if you are doing it consistently, then you will have no waves where you fall.
Gotcha.
And
That's
I think
amazing.
3 times would be the minimum to keep you balanced for anyone.
So three a week is good. If it's a good start, but ultimately, if you can do something every day, that's where you're going to really see the.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what is something a wedding pro could do now to feel more energized?
Okay. So now are you ready for another lecture?
Yes.
So there is 3 main things that take energy away from us. And probably 2 of them will be, actually 3 of them. So it's 4 things. So I didn't mention one, but 3 of them are taking energy away in a different way. So obviously, if you don't sleep enough, eventually you will not have enough maintenance done on your brain and you will be tired. What happens during the night, there's hormone that is called adenosine. Sorry for boring people.
No.
That accumulates during the day and makes you tired. So you actually can go and fall asleep. If that doesn't happen, you will not be sleeping at night. So we need that hormone. If our sleep is not effective, we're not cleaning all of it. So we already wake up tired and we start accumulating that throughout the day. So, and we create a cycle.
Hmm.
And again, that depends on the quality of the sleep and not the quantity of the sleep. Very good thing that ties into that is coffee, because coffee is probably number one thing that makes a person tired in this world, because everyone is drinking it. And coffee does not give you any energy. Coffee makes us energized by two ways. Way number one, as I mentioned, your cortisol shuts up. And this is why most people immediately after having coffee, they're like, oh, I'm good. But that's not the caffeine. It's the stress that they're getting from coffee. A little elevation. What happens after is that caffeine blocks the release of that tiredness hormone into your brain. So now, which usually happens 2-3 hours after you had coffee, you stop releasing that hormone into your brain. So you will be less tired for a period of time. Problem is that you don't stop making the hormone, the adenosine.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps on accumulating in your brain. And then when caffeine winds down, you get a burst of that. And this is where you crash. And when that happens, what people do, they drink coffee again, right?
Yeah.
So
they need to, it's a vicious cycle.
Correct. That's exactly what I say is a vicious cycle. So it takes all the adenosine that is swimming in your brain, it puts it back. And that keeps accumulating because you keep on making it. So eventually what happens is it's somewhere in the evening and people usually don't drink coffee and you're driving from somewhere and all of that shuts and you start falling asleep while driving. Or you're coming home, you're going to bed. Now, when you're sleeping, you're obviously not drinking caffeine. You're dead tired. But because the amounts of that hormone is way more than you should have accumulated, you cannot clear that. And now all that is spilling into your brain and you wake up dead. And what you do, you wake up first thing, you're running and getting coffee. And then this is why most people will be tired, because they never stop this cycle. And we have it normalized in culture, right? Like we're going to drink coffee. We're going for coffee. We have our, networking as let's go and have a coffee. So that's a big, big thing. And I do not suggest anyone drinking caffeine past 9 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And there are people who say, yeah, I can drink coffee and I can fall asleep. And this is exactly what I'm saying. So it might not elevate your cortisol high. You'll be sleeping great, but you will wake up tired. And or worse, you will wake up normal because you didn't sleep a lot.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop working yet. And then somewhere in the middle of the day, it's getting released. So it depends on how much you are drinking. And caffeine stays in the brain over 12 hours. So that's an interesting thing. Now, the other thing that I didn't mention is electrolytes. And this is something that people usually go like, oh my God, like I wish I knew it all my life. So have you ever got a hangover? You drink, maybe a little, maybe not so much, but then you wake up and you're dead. You might be very tired, drowsy, maybe you have horrible headache, and usually it stays the whole day. Maybe it winds down a little bit, and eating something, drinking water doesn't really help, maybe a little bit. So Russians drink pickle juice.
Oh, I've heard pickle juice helps.
And that helps.
Is it the salt in the pickle or like what?
Exactly. So this is exactly where I'm going. So salt is electrolyte that is in charge of our blood flowing. And if we don't have enough sodium in our bloodstream, it slows down the bloodstream. And when all the nutrients and energy that we all have enough of that, right? So like if I'm 90 pounds overweight, I have zero reasons to ever be tired because I have so much extra energy. And yet I'm tired all the time. Why? One of the reasons is because my sodium levels, even with high blood pressure, will not be high enough if I'm not consuming enough of that. And when we add electrolytes or just eating salt by the spoon, and whatever we add to food actually is not enough. Because food becomes unedible. So we need to supplement it separately. You're becoming so energized that you never could imagine to yourself. So any glass of water I drink, including this one, has salt in it. And I buy electrolytes, right? So it has magnesium, potassium, and things like that.
Yeah.
And it needs to be enough. So it's not like what we think, like a little something. It's about a gram of salt in every glass that I have.
Oh, wow.
Of sodium. It's like 3 grams of actual salt. And it sounds very counterintuitive. And many people will say that's like unhealthy. But if you ever been, God forbid, in a hospital, they put IV. First thing you get there, right? What's in that? It's all salt.
Is it all salt?
Yeah. Because they need to keep you alive. And if you like sodium levels go beyond a certain point, the heart just stops. So as long as your sodium levels in the bloodstream are great, you will not be tired due to that, which is a big thing. So if we have this and we sleep normally, depending on this as well, because you will sleep way better. And we don't drink coffee, which by the way depletes sodium and makes you dehydrated. You will have no issue with that. And I'll probably will get to last point of the energy is that sugar makes you tired. It shuts cortisol up, so you become energized. Like we know kids who have like cookie and they start running like crazy.
Yep.
And then they crash. So grown-ups cannot allow to themselves culturally to start running around. They control themselves unconsciously. So they just crash. They elevate their heart rate. They can't fall asleep, whatever. And then they crash and they become very tired. So all those things, when you eliminate them or down regulate them, cause you to be more energized. We specifically in our household, we don't have sugar. We don't drink coffee. Sleep is whatever it is, but we are never tired, including kids, which are heavily on electrolytes and things like that. And every single thing that I have has salt.
Is Gatorade not good because it's sugar water? Because they say that's electrolytes.
Correct. So Gatorade. So this is very interesting. So first ever Gatorade had a lot of salt and a little bit of sugar, actually retaining water in the body. Because we all know that if I ate too much carb, I'm going to bloat. Everyone knows that. And that's because sugar retains water in your system. Retaining water in your system retains sodium as well. So that helps to absorb electrolytes better. Now, with time, Gatorade became more sugar and less electrolytes because of all the paradigm of salt causes high blood pressure, which it, by the way, doesn't. And high blood pressure happens from sugar. But because of all that paradigm, they had to keep it relevant. So they had to decrease the amount of sodium and elevate the amount of sugar. So now you bloat like crazy. You retain whatever you have with way less effect, with a lot of damage to the body. And by the way, now they do have a Gatorade Zero, something like this.
Yeah.
Which still has like not enough electrolytes to actually keep you energized. But might be good for like half a workout.
Crazy. So much. So I took away so much information here. The biggest thing I think is I'm going to try to cut out iced tea out of my life. So I think you've motivated me to do that, because then I think that will help, with the energy and the stress and all that kind of stuff as well.
You can make a decaf.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could. So maybe I'll try that. But I'm going to try the good old water to start and see how that goes.
Water is amazing.
Yeah, because it's and it's easy to get water. It's you don't have to. It doesn't cost you $5 at Starbucks every time you're there. So
100%.
So anyway, so thank you for motivating myself. Hopefully you've motivated everyone else. So
hope so.
Is there a tip or two, like something? I take exercise. I take coffee. Those are the two things that I get out walking. Those are kind of the tips the biggest things that I took. Am I missing something, Julian?
No, so I think there was a lot of tips there. One thing that I can add that no one would guess is if we wake up during REM stage of sleep, we always will be tired because we're not supposed to wake up. And it only happens in the morning. So usually when you have your alarm set and it wakes you up, you will wake up tired because you woke up at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggest to try not to use alarm at all and tell yourself, I need to wake up at 5:45 a.m. several times, and you most likely will.
Mm-hmm.
Or some watches like Fitbit here has alarm setting that will wake you up based on your sleep stage.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it usually will happen like 5 to 10 minutes before you want to wake up. You will always wake up when you're supposed to wake up, like in light sleep. So that thing I think is important. And guys, start working. Try to have less coffee. Try to have less carb and not to eat in the evening. Because eating in the evening, and most people will eat carb, and I'm not going to tell you guys stop sugar, but your body responds to sugar way worse in the evening than in the morning. And I personally don't have any food unless we go out after 4 or 5 p.m. And they changed my life. And we don't eat at weddings.
Yeah.
For years. And, we have venue people changing us like, you need to eat. We don't. And that helps a lot with energy levels as well and stress too. And those are things that are relatively easy to implement.
It's amazing. Julian, I can't thank you enough. And I think everyone's going to get so much out of this episode because I think everything we talked about today is things that we all deal with, so that thank you so much. One thing I always ask all my guests before we go, since we are a wedding podcast, is what is your favorite part of the wedding? So Julian, what is your favorite part? I think for me, it's a no-brainer as a photographer. And we don't thrive on beauty or set up. We thrive on emotions. We are on the documentary side, and we like when people laugh, when people cry, when things are happening. And one of the big things that drive me when we see the father of the bride or a groom, by the way, seeing them, and it's usually on the first look or the ceremony, and start crying. And we see a lot of that. And that's, first of all, it makes me extremely emotional. I always cry in the corner. It's ever since I got kids, I cry now all the time. I was never a crier until, and I have a 21-year-old, a 12 and a 10-year-old, but ever since I got kids, it's like, I guess I relate to the situation, and I'll be over there. Yeah.
Unless sociopath.
Yeah. I'm over there bawling right there with everyone, and I don't know anyone at the wedding, so it's always crazy. And then it's funny because every once in a while, like the wedding coordinator, I'll look at he or she, and we'll look at each other. I'm like, I know, it's like we're both crying, and I think that's a great point. So
just did a same-sex ceremony, 2 guys, beautiful wedding, and they both were giving vows and crying like crazy. And their moms on the 2 different sides of the aisles were crying. Rivers, and we will have amazing photos from that.
Yeah.
I was crying too.
Yeah.
My wife standing in the corner
yeah. It's hard not to. All right, Julian, how would everyone get a hold of you, get in touch with you?
All right. So it's very easy. I think the easiest way is to go to Instagram at Julian Ribinik Studios and just message me. And if you are interested in being a part of my health community or wedding professionals, I have something that's called WWP, Wellness for Wedding Pros. And you can just join and be a part of that. No cost involved. And if you have any questions, I'm always there. And obviously, if you want to look at our work, it's Instagram and Julian Ribinik Studios on all the socials and website as well.
Perfect. Julian, I can't thank you enough for being here. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you on the as a guest, because I think this is it's going to be a really good topic for everyone here, because I think we all struggle in wedding industry with our health. And I think it's something that we all need to, I think, get better about. So hopefully you've motivated everyone out there to get healthy. So thank you so much, Julian, for being here.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business podcast, brought to you by Wedding IQ. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me if you have a topic you would like for me to cover, or if you are in the area of your business you're struggling with, let us know. We'll be happy to help. I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're a fan, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. It helps others find our podcast so they can learn from our guests too. Thanks again for listening.